recording started. This is an emergency meeting of the CC to discuss moving forward with the nonprofit organization and also to give Alacris a minute to explain his position and what he's done moving forward. I know a lot of you are very curious about that. I would like this to continue to be a courteous conversation. Everyone will receive one warning and one warning only because there's a lot of you and it's a lot to keep track of. If you would like to speak, please post a hand in the chat. And with that, I'm actually going to start with my first order of business, which is to recognize Alacrist and let him have a statement, answer some questions for you, and then I'll move on to the next point of my agenda.
Hi. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the phenomenal turnout. This is a nice change. I'm used to seeing like 5 or 6 of you. So obviously, recently we had concerns with the IP that needed to be addressed. So I took measures, and I acknowledge that I made those decisions without consulting you, and that is a breach of trust. And I knew going into this I was going to lose a lot of friends. But I didn't do any of this with any malice. This was not a power grab. This was entirely a consolidation of responsibility. And to do that, I had to do negotiations that led to concessions being made. I prioritized securing our IP above the covenant that we share when we agree to follow rules together. And I will maintain that I think that was the best choice. I want you all to be aware that we have a very tenuous claim on our IP right now. Any group currently using Daggerhair IP has a better claim than us. Belagarth has a better claim than us. We need to figure out how we want new Daggerhair to look, and then we need to figure out what we need to navigate to make it succeed. And I'm committed to making that happen. That was what I was trying to do every step of the way, and I'm still committed to that. Whatever you would like to do is acceptable by me at this point. I'm just a resource. Questions?
Recognize Jeffrey from Nova Antiquity.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, yeah, so Alacrist, thank you so much for the work you've put in to try to keep the DAG trademark within DAG. Now, I do understand that the paperwork and the contracts and the holding companies you've created have set up you in a lifetime ownership position of the DAG trademark, as well as Dominus and 5 others in lifetime advisors.
I'm sorry, not to waste your time. We've moved past that. I was acting under the assumption that I had Graymail's authority to secure the IP. As of yesterday, he stated publicly otherwise, so I'm no longer operating as an agent pursuing the plan that I had outlined previously. If I don't have Graymail's permission, I have no right to the name Daggerhair, and I can't create the model that I was attempting to create for you.
Oh, okay. Well, that's very helpful to hear. I guess what are the next steps to kind of rescind or undo the contracts or the holding companies that you had created?
I didn't. Yeah, so I never executed any of them on my end. So I just will destroy them. They were never fully executed contracts. I was going to wait until all of the IP situation had been settled before I activated that.
Okay, that's excellent to hear. Thank you so much. Just for completion's sake, is there a place where we can check and be sure that nothing has gone through from perhaps like loose ends from those contracts?
It's entirely held on a HubSpot that I control, and I'll just delete the whole HubSpot. There won't be any of your personal info on it.
Okay, yeah, as far as other people on this council are concerned, if that's okay with everybody else, then it's fine. As long as that plan is not currently rolling or happening.
Yeah, I tried to keep everything sterile. I created a new domain and email specifically just for that licensing, so I'll delete all of it.
Great. I'm happy with that. Thank you for that, Chris.
Uh, Lady
My
Deb,
pleasure.
Lady Deb would like a quick recap as to where we are now. I'm assuming from your opinion.
Right now, we are whatever we collectively decide we want to be. There are no documents or prior expectations other than what we want to uphold. If honestly, from a legal perspective, you are just people that are deciding how you want to interact
Okay.
and what's the best way to run your game.
Tamorin has a hand.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. My biggest thing about this, I didn't really want to get pulled into any of this because I have not been really part of the organization since I left the executive director's office. But I do need to make a couple things perfectly clear that seem to have been either misunderstood or misrepresented or just kind of mistaken. The first thing is that as it stands right now, the DGBA is still a legally recognized corporation within the state of Maryland. It is scheduled for forfeiture if certain things do not take place, but I need to make abundantly clear that the board of directors and the DBGA do in fact exist as it stands right now. They are fully entitled to make all of the decisions that they wish moving forward. There should never have been any type of a statement stating that the chapter council and the board don't exist and have no power and have no say. That is patently false. We just need to make sure that that is abundantly clear at this point in time. Uh, so,
I
uh,
disagree with
sir,
that, for the record,
That,
sir. But that's
okay.
a different conversation.
Stating as someone who has owned and operated 5 individual LLCs within the state of Maryland, while
This
I
is an
am not
Ohio
an
L.
attorney,
Okay, no, sorry. You never mind. That was wrong.
while I am not an
let's let him
attorney and
finish.
I'm not offering legal advice here, I know for a fact that the way that corporations work within the state of
Hey,
Maryland,
baby.
the corporation still exists as of this time. They have the ability to appeal, they have the ability to um, ask for a reinstatement of activity. They have the ability to appeal to the IRS concerning the 2019 taxes or whatever taxes were deemed in arrears and everything else like that. They do in fact exist. The person of record, the agent of record, is maintained as David Veerling, aka Graymail, and that his address at Stonington Place is actually the address of his parents' house, and it has been for 30 years. Graymail is acting as an agent of record, not a member of the board of directors, not a member of the BOD, as required by Maryland law. Any business that is operating outside of the state or has members outside of the state needs to maintain one point of contact, and that's what Graymail has been. Graymail has not been active uh, for the DGBA in quite some time. The DGBA has maintained, per its bylaws and per its articles of incorporations, every change of leadership as required by law. They do not have to necessarily change that agent of record every time a new president or executive director happens. Corporations change power all the time. That's not a method of recording that's required. They don't need to know who's in charge. They just need to have a way of somebody who has a physical address in the state of Maryland be the point of contact, be it an individual, a corporation, or a business that just operates that for you. Um, these are all things that are very easy to research on the State Department's website, the IRS's website, um, and just about anyway. It literally takes 5 minutes of searching Google to figure these key facts out. That's all I've got to say at this point in time right now. Thank you.
that was not legal advice?
He stated it wasn't.
It, okay.
Uh, all right. Alan, do you have anything to add to that?
Tim Warren, you were the one that pushed for 2-year term limits on the BOD, correct?
I wouldn't state that I pushed for it, but it was a recommendation that I had, yes.
And it takes very little research to know that Maryland requires annual, correct? Not biannual. Our bylaws were operating fraudulently the moment that happened. But I would also position that this call is not for a witch hunt. If we want to have a special committee for that, we should probably do that. Right now, we need to figure out how to make this work. Would you agree?
Are you asking me specifically if I agree that we're trying to make everything work as a group? Yes, we are. Otherwise, I don't think anybody would be here.
Thank you. I respect you, and I want you to help us do this. I think you're an asset, and I am happy you're back. And I just want to make sure this conversation stays productive. I'm done. Thank you.
So, my next agenda item comes from Hodor. Um, he would like to know the removal process of the advisor that you had set up, the sixth advisor, because his apparently under his understanding of harassment is wrong. Um, he also wanted to know why the bylaws had to change without CC notification, um, why the current bylaws weren't good enough, and then also what gave you the idea to bring back a banned player as one of those advisors.
That's a lot of questions. Can we do those one at a time?
Sure. We'll start with what would have been the removal process for your six advisors.
That was not finished in the red line step. No one had executed this contract. No one was going to until the IP transferred.
Okay.
I was still redlining with everyone involved.
The next question is, what is your definition of harassment?
What is my definition of harassment? I think you're asking a pointed question that you think that me saying that Dominus threatening the arbiter with legal recourse was not harassment. Is that correct?
It's not my question. It's Hodor's question.
I'm asking Hodor. Is that correct?
No, I'm asking what is your definition of harassment? Not about Dominus, just what is your definition of harassment?
Going out of your way to make somebody feel uncomfortable. To take it upon yourself to force your own insecurities on somebody else and make them feel bad. To make them fear for their lives or their livelihood.
And Hodor's next question was, why did you decide to put Dominus as one of your advisors without talking to the CC first?
That was entirely to secure the PE, or the IP, sorry. Dominus in Rome would have a better claim than me to the IP. They being the majority shareholders of Ragnarok, to the best of my knowledge, would be able to file against me and take it, and then I would have done all of this for nothing. So I made a compromise, and I ensured he wasn't going to have any form of political power, that he was going to be used for his skill sets to run an event that generated revenue for your new nonprofit. I was trying to create a revenue stream for you that I could control, and if it went wrong, I was liable for. The contract allowed everyone involved, which 3 of them would have been your picks, essentially. If it's your president, your finance, and then Ericos was gracious enough to offer up his seat to anyone the CC had voted for. Any of those people could have sued me directly if this failed.
Timorn has a hand.
Sir.
Just as a point of clarification, Ragnarok LLC has always been and was set up as a wholly owned subsidiary of the DBGA. It has no claim to any of the assets or any of the IP that the DBGA owns ever. And the sole shareholder is the acting president or now executive director. That is how their articles of incorporation were written. That's how their bylaws were written. Before the dissolution process was begun. So Dominus was not in a position of power. He was on the board of managers until his banning, at which point in time he was removed from said position. So I don't understand why there's confusion as to how Ragnarok would be able to ever go back against its owning entity.
So I guess to frame my stance here, I don't look at it the same way as you. My research and my attorney has advised that Ragnarok is not connected. Now that we're in forfeiture, like we're not in a process to forfeiture, we are forfeited. The status is forfeited. If you were to research what happens to the board and voting members for a Maryland LLC or a Maryland corporation, they don't get a say. Only the agent does. I understand that the registered agent is typically only a mailing address, but in this situation, I've been advised that that is the only person that can authorize anything to do with the DBGA. I've sunk tons of money into this over the last year, and I've been told the exact same thing by multiple people. So, like, if you know more, I want your help to fix it. I want this body to decide if the DBGA is what they would like to fix or if they want to build something new. But if they do the new thing, like I like your idea because that definitely protects the IP better. If we do a new thing, we need to be very careful about other people. So I guess to answer Hodor's question directly, I brought Dominus in this to try to make sure no one could take it from us. I didn't want us to figure out a new path and then have someone swoop in and just ruin it.
Jeffrey has a hand. And then we'll go to Timorn.
Yeah, so I think it's clear to everybody that there's an issue where we need to either unforfeit or keep the trademark going past July 9th, which is when it's going to be gone. I believe that Cook, now, I can see that there's some disagreement about the best steps to get that trademark back, but I do believe that Cook was looking into a number of alternatives that we could use to keep the trademark within DAG, Chapter Council, and the Board of Directors. And I wonder if now would be an appropriate time for Cook to propose or present some of his findings.
All right, and then I have Timorn.
All right. Concerning the IP, this is actually something that is a little stickier, and Alecris was pretty much on the right track on this one. I definitely got to give him props on this one. The IP is specifically owned by David Veerling, aka Graymail. He is the person who filed it. He's the sole person on record that has it. Again, not an attorney. I'm not a PTO, so I don't know all of the definitions, but from what I have gleaned from looking into all of this over the last 48 hours and what we did before is that what he actually is the owner of is the service mark for the name Dagger here in relation to it being a foam fighting educational organization devoted to hosting events, teaching people, getting into things very similar to how the SCA had written theirs. so that it would basically be more of a sporting organization, but also as an educational type of a thing. So that's the one piece of IP that is owned exclusively by Graymail. And that will have to be something that is taken into account. And from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong here, Alacrist, is that that comes up for open purchase or open acquisition this summer. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. To the best of my knowledge,
Okay.
this summer would be so like $100 or so is what my attorney advises. We could extend it to January 9th, and we could do that without Graymail's permission. But I haven't found any way to get specifically that trademark out from under him without negotiating for it. My attorney has advised that we can file for a new trademark under the exact same name, and as long as they don't contest it, we would have to wait until January 9th, and then it would immediately start processing. And I don't know how long it takes, a couple months from there. So we could have it February or March next year. But if somebody counterfiles against us, specifically like Belagarth, or even another, like a chapter that wants to claim prior use, like they would likely have a better claim than us. So I created a system that I haven't looked at AmpGuard's model specifically, but everyone I've from AmpGuard that I've explained this to, I was basically just reproducing what they were doing. There's a company that owns the IP that has contracts that limit what it can do with it. And then there's a company that runs the game that just has the rights to use the trademark. At least that was the goal. Without Graymail, we can't do any of that.
I do have a question on that, if you'll humor me. So, as Torin stated, Graymail has he owns the IP. He is unequivocally the only person who is on record as owning the IP. It is unfortunate that Graymail um, has suffered a lot of medical issues recently. Um, does Graymail understand that he owns the IP? Because from things that have come out recently, he doesn't appear to realize that he owns it.
So when I first approached him, I think it was February of 2022, and then I don't think he followed up until a few months later. But I had explained it to him. He seemed to understand it. I kept him updated every couple months. I would let him know where I was in the process. And then as soon as I drove to DC from Cleveland, and I delivered a document that I needed notarized so that we could file with the state on his behalf. And as soon as he saw that, it seemed like I think he was just afraid of committing fraud. So I offered to pay for his attorney fees to go seek counsel. And then he kind of ghosted me. And then Dominus said that he would call him and discuss it with him. And that's kind of where it has been sitting for the last couple weeks.
Okay, Jeffrey has a hand.
In response directly to the question about if Graymail understands that he owns the IP, I spoke to him yesterday just to reach out to him to not sign anything. He did reply, and I can summarize his response as, yes, he does not believe that he owns the IP, nor does he believe he has the authority to transfer it at the current time.
Okay. All right. Alric from Biofrost says, with all the negative press Stagger here has had in the last decade, taking our IP would only hurt them more than anything. Anyone have any comments on that?
They would take it so no one could use it. They wouldn't take it to use it themselves.
Tamorin?
All right. My suggestion, and that this is just a personal suggestion, would be that the current BOD of the DBGA draft a letter and send that directly to Graymail, stating that in an effort to maintain the IP's integrity through the DBGA, they would like to know if he is willing to discuss the transfer from him because he is the known registrar of said service mark, and it has been advised by everybody that's asked that he is the sole owner, and they would like to open discussions with him as a group, not an individual showing up at his door with a piece of notarized stuff. To be perfectly honest, when I heard that that's how you did that, Alacrist, I would have thought you were a process server. I would have thought that somebody was like filing for child support against me or something like that. It would scare the ever loving shit out of me. So, an indirect method of communication, but from the organization itself, because Graymail was pretty heart set on the transfer of power from AWC to the DBGA at the time that it happened. He wanted to see the organization grow into what it became. From my understanding and working with him for all of the things that he and I were working on together. So I think that would be a better way to approach it than one person with something asking it to be notarized to transfer it to an individual. That's just my suggestion.
I 100% agree. We were supposed to meet at the Atari event, but he decided that he had wanted to spend the day with his girlfriend, which I don't blame him. So like, it was much more personal than just me showing up randomly and just dropping off an envelope. It was, yeah, you get the point.
Hodor has a hand on this, and then I'm going to get to Alric.
Why did you personally reach out to him on this and not include the rest of the board or the CC on any of it? Why did it get to this point where you just made a proposal and said, this is what we're doing, instead of talking to anyone in the national standpoint?
That's a great question, Hodor. So, to the best of my knowledge, when the company was set to forfeited, none of the work product or the entities that existed, the BOD or the CC, were valid. To what I thought, I'm assuming it still is true. The only representative was the agent. That's what I was advised. So for me to interact with you as if you are a representative of the DBGA when I know that you're not would make me culpable. Like I love Dagger Hair and I'll do anything to keep it alive, but I really don't want to go to jail for it. So I did what I thought was best to protect the organization and to make sure that we keep our IP. And I in no way have any power in the model that I was trying to create. The only thing I was there to do was pay for your IP.
Alric would like to know, if you didn't file anything, could you explain why Dagger Hair Foam Fighting LLC is on file for 10/18/24 at Columbus, Ohio?
Yes, sir. That is the holding company. Yeah, like it wasn't going to be my trademark. It was going to be in that holding company. That way, if it needed to transfer at some point back to the BOD, it was easy.
Earlier in this conversation, you had said that you didn't submit any of the contracts or anything that you created.
Yeah, anything you guys want to see. The holding agreement is not finished. It was out to everybody that was involved, and they were going to give me the red lines, and I'm still waiting on that. So we were going to design more of it, but there's a raw version of that, and then anything else you want to see. I've submitted all of my conversations to with Graymail to the BOD for review. Like I'm happy to be completely transparent. I would just ask that that's a special committee that we do. I'd like to keep this call productive on what we need to accomplish.
So moving on from that. Isaac said, hold on, I just lost it. Where'd it go? Does anyone actually want to run this organization or take us forward? I came here out of curiosity for that. Alacris' plan seems to be over, but for the better or worse. So, who is going to take care of things before the deadline? and get Dagger here fighting again? I'm assuming that's an open floor question. I'll be looking for hands. Nora in hand.
Yeah, I wanted to address a little bit of that. I believe that all of Alicrist's actions were made in good faith, and I know I've known him for a very long time, and I know how dedicated he is to the game. I volunteered to take over the president position because I also want to see Dagger here move forward. There are a lot of different ways we can do that, but I am very committed to pushing it to move forward, from getting Ragnarok back up off the ground, to generating revenue so that we can subsidize events, grow the game, all of that. Honestly, even with the hiccups and this emergency meeting, I have seen more action in the last 6 months towards Dagger here becoming an active organization again than I had seen in previous five or so years. I don't know if that answers the question, but the current board as well is very committed to moving us forward as well.
Cook has a hand on this.
What she said, basically. Yeah, to answer your question, Isaac, yeah, we're pushing forward. There's people on the steering wheel. We just need to do everything in the right order and keep everything above the board because it's a lot of ins and outs, apparently. So I actually have a lot of suggestions on how to move forward and what our next steps should be. So if you have any more questions, let me know. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, we're working on it.
Lady Deb has a hand on this, and then I'll go to Isaac again, and then Lexon, I'll get your question in. Lady Deb, do you have your hand? So it's some
Oh,
people. Oh, there you go.
Sorry about that. Okay, so just to recap really quick, because I'm getting confused a little bit here. It sounds like Elicris was worried about the intellectual property or the Dagger Here trademark, that Gray Mail is the sole person to have, and how we might be able to get it from him as opposed to him giving it to Rome or Bell, or it just going up for auction to the highest bidder. But I guess the other question that I have that I saw in the chat the other day was that there may be some money owed to the IRS. And so I guess the general question boils down to, are you guys willing to do the work to rebuild Dagger here from the ground up, or do people want to start and just build something new?
That's for you guys to decide. Do you want to support? Tim Warren has suggested that it's capable of reviving the DBGA. I don't know if that's possible, but he seems confident. If that's what you want to do that. We have a dedicated board that is attempting to rebuild something and take what we've done in the past and use that as inspiration for better ideas. You can support them as well.
Cook has a hand in response to Lady Deb.
Yeah, so I basically spent last night, coming up with some options for a next step. So if we want to move that conversation to next step material, I'm pretty prepared for that. But I want to kind of clear the board with anybody else's questions for Alacrist, or I know Cyrilay had something to say, but what I'm about to get into is kind of a wall of text that I'm about to post, that kind of has a bunch of good questions that we should answer before we move forward. So I figured that would actually take a little bit, kind of majority of our time, maybe. So I wanted to kind of clear everything out before I got into that whole thing. So I'll leave it to you guys on how and when you want to present things, but I think Cyrilay had something to say just in general. Maybe we can save that to the end, but maybe we should get that out of the way. Whatever you guys think.
Okay. Isaac, you have a hand? Isaac? If you're speaking, I can't hear you. So I'm going to move on to a question. Or hear you typing. Odin brings up a good point. Your headset might be muted. It's showing you as unmuted, Isaac, but we're not getting any audio. Okay. Lexon from Dominion says, it is my understanding that the IP can be handed over to the board. Is that correct? It sounds like, from what Tamorin and Alacrist were saying, yes. But go ahead, Alacrist.
I guess it depends on what you were referencing. If we get it from Graymail, yeah. I guess, was there something specific? I'm sorry, like my brain is jello. Like if I'm just completely missing the point of something, just let anyone tell me.
I think we covered that earlier when we discussed approaching Graymail as an organization.
Oh yeah. Timor had mentioned there might be a path to getting it without Graymail, which would be cool. I don't know though. My attorney said no.
All right. Lexon says, do we have documentation of what all the IP entails? What are we actually taking ownership of?
So IP is a pretty broad concept, but right now we're just talking about the trademark. If we were to get the original trademark, we could potentially have what's called like prior use. So it's weird because common law and like corporate law kind of mix here. So you can have claims to a trademark or to IP or to whatever. So like even if you own the actual trademark, you might not have a better claim on it than someone that's been using it longer or more. So that's a weird area to just clearly define.
All right. I have some people typing, and then I'm going to move on to Cook's proposal because people want to hear about it, and Cook has a lot to say. Hodor, go ahead.
My last question was also about the current bylaws on the website. That has not been addressed yet.
Oh, my apologies. Thought I had, but I guess we missed it in the jump around.
Okay, Cook is addressing it.
Cook's going to address that? Okay.
Shikanta, I adore you, but please don't post that right now. I deleted 2 messages, sorry.
Well, Cook, what you got?
Okay, cool. What I have is just some questions I kind of came up with, kind of reviewing our discussions over the last couple of days on the meeting chat, the CC chat, and yeah, I basically have a wall of text incoming. If you give me just a minute or two, I will post that to the chat. Just give me a minute.
How dare you?
And it's too big for one message. It's going to be 2.
Reacher is correct. We try to keep everything in the text chat visible, so that way someone watching from home can actually see it without going through it.
Even Belagarth advertisements?
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and delete that.
All right, cool. So the first thing on the list was the bylaws, Hodor. I wanted to ask if we have an original saved somewhere. Like somebody was talking about backups the other day, and we should really have the original text somewhere, right? So does anybody have any idea if we have as close to pre-change bylaws as possible?
Oh. I imagine Olaf would. I can call him.
So I would really like to have the original bylaws put back up, and we can work from there. That's kind of the first thing that we can actually step toward doing. Ooh, a lot of wind. All right. So yeah, if anybody can find those bylaws, we need them. So I'll just move on to the next thing. The IP needs to be secured. Who really owns it? We don't know. We need to answer that question. Does it matter if anybody else owns it, if we have other options? But we can, I think that our plan A should be, securing the IP as it is from whoever really owns it, find out who does, and try to get it back from what I've heard today. It sounds like we might be able to draft a letter to Gray Mail as an organization and see if he can have the authority, even if he doesn't think he does, to pass us the IP. Plan B, somebody suggested yesterday of calling it something else. Yeah, I think a few people suggested that. So I think our first step should be figuring out who has it and trying to get it. Otherwise, we might just have to make a new one. If anybody has any questions about that, I'll pause a moment before I move on.
I don't think there's any harm in just using the Daggerhair name, unless Greymail is willing to sue us over it. We could just use it, go prior use, file for the trademark, fight whoever tries to fight us. If it seems like it's going to be if the juice isn't worth the squeeze at that point, we can decide to change our name. There's no harm, no foul.
Okay. Just catching up. It looks like we do have bylaws kind of centered, so that's good.
Zachary is very good at that.
Let's see. So what were we on? IP transfer. Yeah. So I like Tim Horn's idea. We should draft a letter. I think that should be a next step too. Just, I mean, even if Graymail doesn't think he has authority, we need to even if we think he does and he doesn't, we need to ask him. So that should just happen. If it turns out that he doesn't actually have the authority, that's probably fine. We could probably figure it out from there. So I don't know who's going to spearhead that that venture, but if somebody would kindly volunteer, or maybe just leave it up to the board members, we're going to get it done either way. But we have a lot going on. So if anybody can step up and help spearhead that idea as a communal effort, we will do that.
I have a hand from Tim Warren.
All right, just real quick, just did a Justia trademark search on it. It's actually showing that the entity that owns the registered trademark is in fact the corporation. The filing date was 10/27/2018. The status date was updated 7/09/2019, stating that the Daggett Battle Games Association Incorporated, also known as the DBGA, is the original registrant. It is a corporation, and its address is the same that was provided by Graymail. He is only listed as the person who actually put the paperwork in on behalf of the organization. It says specifically that it is owned by the corporation.
Okay.
That is correct. Yeah.
But if that's the case, to my understanding, we might be better off with resurrecting the DBGA Inc., the original corporation, not the new incorporation that I was thinking about doing, to secure our IP better. Does anybody second that as a good idea?
I would do both. If you can't get one, at least you have the other. The DBGA gives you a stronger claim to the IP, so if we have to fight, we would want to have the DBGA. Either way. If we can get it, yes, please. I was told that was not an option.
All right. So as far as our options there, the resurrecting DBGA, I think both of the options really have the same goal underlying them, and that's the 2019 taxes issue. We did pay the money, right? And we don't have the paperwork that backs that up, or we need a whole hearing or something like that. It's out of my wheelhouse here, but we need to tie up the loose ends of the old DBGA, at least. If not, we can just resurrect it, which would be just fine with me. No difference as far as the articles of incorporation and things like that go. We were not going to have any real difference between the old DBGA corporation itself and the new one that I was going to set up. In fact, I wanted to mirror that pretty closely. So for efficiency's sake, it sounds like we might want to bring back DBGA instead of starting a new incorporation and then file for a nonprofit status for DBGA. Does anybody have concerns about that?
Yes.
Yes. What's up?
So you still have to deal with the IRS. If you'd like to get the DBGA back in it, and somehow you don't need Graymail, you need to figure out. So the IRS stuff is going to take a couple months for them to schedule a hearing. You'll have an unofficial hearing with an officer. You'll plead the case. Whatever evidence we have to support that we did file and we did pay and they just didn't accept it. That was what we were told. Then they'll deliberate. They'll hopefully waive the fines in addition to accepting the original payment. Then we can apply to the state. So this is another couple months before you get a hearing with the state to go over reactivating your corporation. And assuming there's no reason they wouldn't let you reactivate the corporation, but after that, then there's another hearing for the nonprofit, and you need to justify the existence of the nonprofit.
So I guess my question after that is, would it be easier, in anybody's opinion, to start again? I don't even think we can.
I would
But
like to, before you go off on another
go for it.
road, Cook, I would like to recognize Hodor on taxes because he
Yes,
specifically
yeah.
has a handle on the taxes.
All right.
Go for that.
So with CPAs who does public accounting, they typically have, my mother has her own offshore of the IRS that she can call directly at any time. So it will not take months. If we
Okay.
get with a public accountant who does taxes, it might take up to a month to get everything flowing properly again, but not months at a time. On
Okay,
top
that's
of
good.
this, we can then speedline changing us from I believe we are a 501c7 into a
I think.
501c3.
Yep.
So again, it's just getting with the correct people. Now, how much is owed is my question, and what happened in 2019? Because there's a lot of misinformation on that, because the IRS has always taken paper copies of the returns.
And
And there
I
are
saw
some
that conversation.
returns that have to be papered. So that is my big question on that. And
That's
if
a really good
Ericos
question.
can answer that right now,
So
then
Ericus
please.
has a hand. Yeah, I was gonna recognize him, Hodor.
Hodor, I'm gonna have to go back and do a full analysis. It's been 5 years since I've looked at this stuff. What happened though was the taxes were filed by paper, which is how we used to file every year, and I had notes on how to file everything. And it appears that when I filed in 2019, I got a letter back saying that it had to be filed electronically. So I promptly went into the system, found a provider that could help us file electronically. Filed the taxes for 2018 and 2019 electronically. I've got records of every single thing that's been done. It's all an open book. Every single transaction that has ever occurred since I've taken over the treasurer in 2018, there's electronic copies of everything, the bank accounts. Every person on this call can go through every single thing. I'll post every single record. I've done it before. Last time somebody was bringing up ideas that I was taking finances or that I was commingling finances, I posted all the evidence, all the proof. Every person can look at every single thing. And what happened, I believe, is after the taxes were filed correctly, we had COVID, and then everything went into a black hole. And I don't know exactly why. I called the IRS, and Hodor, maybe you or your mother or your mother's friend, whoever it was, the CPA,
My mother.
maybe they have a backdoor to your mom. Sorry about that. Has a backdoor into the IRS. I cannot tell you how many times I've called the IRS, sat on hold. I mean, I'm talking like 30 phone calls at least, and then just get disconnected. I was not able ever to speak to a single person since this whole thing blew up. At some subsequent point, I believe it was, 2 years ago at least, Alichrist, when I gave you a letter that I'd received. And,
it was April of this year, right?
Was it April this year?
I think so.
I
can dig it
you,
out.
man,
I did save it somewhere.
Yeah, I saved it too.
Good.
This has been just a CF because ever since we got the new board of directors, the new structure in, the next treasurer, I sent every single thing. I sent the checks, all of the information and everything to Kyrex when he was elected as treasurer. I'm not exactly Eric Coast, can you please provide? Yeah, of course. Anyway, Kyrex had everything, and I don't know exactly what happened, but it seemed like there was a request for some help since Kyrex didn't file the taxes, and since Kyrex, I believe, kind of, sort of, I think life just got in the way. I think Kyrex just got busy and wasn't able to do the things that I think he intended to do. So, not throwing shade on anyone because we all do have life get in the way. But while I was treasurer, and even while Kyrex was treasurer, I did my best out and to keep things moving.
No, the IRS are known to be complete jocks to anyone who is not a CPA. So that's normal for you to get hung up on.
Yeah. Now, also in either 2018 or somewhere around there, when I Yeah, it was in 2018 when I became the treasurer. It records taxes weren't filed for years. We did have one of these other penalties that had come in. When I took over as treasurer, I received, I shit you not, a box full of handwritten notes. And I'm joking when I say crayons on construction paper, but it may as well have been. I tried to make heads or tails of this giant box of handwritten notes of IOUs, of I paid dues, and stuff like that. And I just finally had to say, look, what we have is what we have. What's in the bank account is what's in the bank account. And that was our starting point. From that point forward, I got our taxes abated with the penalty, sorry. The term they use is penalty abatement. So they did assess a penalty. I believe it was $5,000. And the IRS fortunately did abate those penalties, and we were able to get back in good standing. Subsequently, ever since the new bylaws, ever since the new board of directors, I'm not sure anybody's done anything. Maybe somebody can help me out with this, but all I know is I tried that one year, and it seems like, you know, my reward for trying and helping seems to just be like individuals throwing shade my way for no reason, without any basis for fact. I post every single thing ever online, every transaction, everything is online, and the only reward I ever get for trying and helping is, you know, shitters shitting on me for no reason.
Right. Well, I'll go ahead and say thank you. And as far as the understanding I have, is that we've always filed taxes after you were done. Even when Kyrax had his business go down, we filed taxes. As far as the
I was not
information I'm
aware
getting.
what happened with Kyrex, like I said, I know Kyrex had life going on. I know he had things, and I know he wasn't able to do it, and I stepped in and helped out. And, you know, that's kind of just what I do.
And I thank you. I'm sure a bunch of other people do.
Yeah. Well, I'm not looking for thanks. I'm just looking for just not getting shit on. That's all.
Oh, I can do that.
No, yeah, we appreciate you, and you've been transparent in everything you've ever done with the organization. Thank you.
All right. Well, it sounds like that kind of leads to my next question. Was the lawyer part, right? We probably need a lawyer. Hodor's reached out to me. I think that we have a good pro bono service coming to us. We just need to talk with board of directors or whoever would want to kind of spearhead that conversation, have the conversation with the lawyer. I think I'd be happy to do it. But honestly, everybody, I'm kind of getting burnt out. You know, I put in a lot of hours. I've slept very little recently. Maybe in a week or so, I'll feel fresher and I can take that on. So maybe we can just table that for now. And we have tax season to worry about anyway. So it was like a month away before a good conversation could be had anyway. So, well, I'll just table that whole next paragraph, and try to move on. Unless anybody has any more questions about what kind of lawyers we should get involved, or any answers about, you know, any good comments about what we should do lawyer wise for what regions, what kind of lawyers do we need for what reasons. If anybody has anything to say about that, go ahead and speak up. I'll give it a moment.
You know, you have me. Obviously, I ruined my trust with most of you, so I'm not going to volunteer to lead anything. But from like the consultative standpoint, I'm here. I'm a resource.
Honestly, I appreciate your knowledge of holding companies, and that's something that's lower on the list right now, but I'll get to. And I think we could use you for that.
I'm going to make the suggestion that we hire a Maryland specific lawyer, and then just for the IP to get a PTO who's licensed to deal in Maryland and DC.
Okay. So for cost's sake and all that, I would like to go through maybe a pro bono service to at least get a short conversation for free. Does anybody have a problem with that, or should we probably just go full bore and pay for a lawyer?
I would suggest that you get a referral from a pro bono attorney. Ask
Okay.
somebody for the free advice, and then find out who that they would use specifically for our corporation's specific issues.
Okay, that's a good call. A lot of people are typing. We're going to give it a moment.
Hey, Cook, this is Dooney from Dominion.
Hi, Dooney.
Hey. I asked you a question in the chat, but it's kind of losing. It's going fast. Do you have an estimate of how much it'll cost to keep everything running? You mentioned that Sil had paid $480 in your large text, but there wasn't a cost for any of the other things that you had mentioned. I don't know
Right.
if you have any idea for that estimate, so we can figure out how to raise some money for it.
The costs are needs based. I have a paragraph for that. That's kind of was my next point. Was dealing with costs and all that. So let people to kind of talk, and then I will get to the next paragraph, and I'm sure I will address exactly that.
Thank you.
No problem, man. Thanks.
To get some time off this year. Thanks, guys. I think we've cleared our hands.
Okay, yeah, I don't see anything else.
Does anyone have any general questions for Cook? Because from what I'm getting in the chat, there appears to be a consensus of support for him, which I highly encourage. And Cook, don't feel like you have to do all this by yourself. I mean, you are allowed to network with other peoples. We have many different people in many different professions in this game, and I'm sure that we can find some people to help you out. It does sound like Hodor has a line in the IRS, which could be extremely helpful. And I'm sure we could shake some. I'm sure that there are people who could help with this, so don't feel like you have to do all the legwork.
Thank you. And I will absolutely have the power to make subcommittees and have people, work on things for me. And anybody that offers to help, I will almost certainly use your help.
I have everything you would need in retainer with the IP attorney for renewing the trademark. That needs to be done soon. It's only a couple $100. There's like 1,000 retainer though. It's yours.
Nice.
Okay. We've got some people typing.
Okay.
If depending on what they say, we'll continue on this. If not, I'm going to move to Cirle has requested some time.
Just briefly, my name is Cirle. I've been arbiter for the past year. For those who don't know me, I just wanted to bring up I have been floored by the amount of attendance at this meeting, and it's been great to see this much response. And not necessarily the best of actions, but this is the type of strength our game needs, and I just wanted to remind everybody that once we get these things going, we still do need the volunteer base that everybody has been talking about being stretched thin. Everybody's doing 2 jobs. We had 3 board positions empty for a majority of this year, and we still have only filled 2. Sil has been stepping in to do some duties where he's available, but we technically do not have a director of PR. So the chapter reps that come to these meetings and that look on our Discord and get all the updates, please make sure you're, again, going back to your chapters, getting them this information, and that if we don't fill these positions, we don't have a game. So if somehow we need to get get more feet on the ground as far as the administration for this all goes. That's all I wanted to say.
Here, here.
Does anyone have any comment on that? Jeffrey has a hand.
Well, just in regards to volunteers, we do have one self-nomination in the chat by Feenan from Dominion to help with the PR. And also, just
Yes.
to let you know, Cook, I linked you a different person in the chat, Eliza Pauke, who offered to potentially help with what you're doing. So you
I
can see
reached out to Cook in a DM on Discord as well.
Oh, nice. Okay, you got that covered. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I will look at it. I'm kind of juggling a few things. But yes, I will
Take your
get with
time.
you for sure.
I know where to find you if I don't hear from you in a week or so.
Yes, yes. If it comes down to reminding me, please do.
All right, Brigador Kane has a hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment really quick on just how we're doing today. The last several days, Alacrist has endured some, possibly partially justified dragging, but also some really childish stuff, and I'm glad that that didn't extend to today. Everybody's been much more even-tempered than I kind of expected, and I'm pretty proud of everybody for that.
Here, here.
I do have to say there was a lot of concern that this meeting was going to go sideways on that. So I want to thank everyone so far for their ability to remain civil. I've only had to delete a couple things. I have a hand for Hodor.
The last elephant in the room from me looking in is the organization legally operating right now, or is not legally operating? Alecrest has said that the organization is defunct, forfeited, not a legal entity. Tomorn has said that it is still a legal operating incorporation. And from my understanding, and please note that I am a truck driver of all things, not an accountant, nothing like that, just raised by them, that we are still an incorporated operating organization. Are we or are we not operating as a entity, a legal organizations?
To the best of my knowledge, none of us can represent the DBGA.
Do we have liability for waivers or anything like that, or is everything debunked? I guess of the ward.
So I did make some new waivers that just kind of remove the DBGA from it and add stronger indemnity. I can get those over if you guys want to use them as a template and figure out something else. But I wouldn't use anything that specifically says the DBGA until an attorney has an opportunity to tell you if it's okay.
I can add that
Tomorn has
if
a
it
hand
is
on
the
that.
case. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead, Cook, and then we'll go to Tomorn.
Yeah, just real quick. If we're not an organization, we could be one legally operating real quick. DBGA specifically, I don't know.
All right, Tamorin.
Let me touch on the waiver real quick. Waiver is just a piece of paper. It honestly doesn't really offer that much legal protection. They never have. It just shows that the participants had the intent to engage in the activity. There's always a chance for liability, and that's why we've always discussed seeking liability insurance for everything that we do. It's just cost prohibitive at times. It's also why the individual chapters were always recommended that they operate as some form of a limited liability corporation, because that reduces the liability of the members. All depends on which state you're registered in and what your particular state's protections are for LLCs. Pennsylvania is vastly different than Maryland. So it is something that every individual chapter, as well as the DGBA, will need to address in the future. And that was something that when we took over as the new BOD, we had discussed at length multiple times the methods with which we were going to seek legal legal aid. Basically, we were trying to figure out ways to hire attorneys to figure out all of this for us as an organization nationally, on organizations on a local level. Just a lot of things happened that, I hate to say, sideline those particular things. As far as the organization status right now, I've already stated my knowledge on it. I'm not gonna argue with Alacrist's interpretation. This is one of the other things that I would suggest that in contacting a Maryland specific attorney would probably alleviate a lot of these things, because every state has minor differences in how corporations are treated. It may be something so simple that the attorneys that he's been speaking with are completely different than the attorneys that I've spoken with, and which states they operate and where they're licensed and what their understanding of local corporate law is. So again, I would suggest Maryland-based attorney, because the business is based in Maryland. If the organization decides to transfer to Delaware, then obviously we're going to want to talk to an attorney who's familiar with those actions as well. Other than that, it all comes down to, at this point in time, he said, she said. We're dealing with a lot of people's opinions and secondhand knowledge, because, like I said before, I'm not an attorney. Alacrist is not an attorney. We've just both spoken to a lot of them about all sorts of different things. So I really think that that's the course that needs to happen, and it needs to happen as soon as possible. I also wanted to touch on Lady Deb's question about what we have to do and in kind of what order. Do we have to pay the taxes? Do we have to refile the LLC? Do we have to reinstate the nonprofit status? I think it's also important to recognize that all of these things really should be happening all at once. The fastest thing would be to get the DBGA out of the forfeiture status by registering an appeal with the state of Maryland, to go through a CPA, hopefully to fast track information concerning the IRS and our tax status, whether or not there are penalties, what needs to be paid, figure out what the actual amounts need to be so that we can figure out how to actually make these payments and get things current, or get them absolved and get it reinstated. Again, it's my personal opinion that the perfect storm of timing on this really ended up being what screwed us over, particularly when you add in COVID to everything, and the going to preference for electronic transfers, stating that there's going to be a backlog for the paperwork. But I think a lot of people read very shortly into things and then take the beginning of what they see and they take that as the gospel fact, and that's quite often not the case. I could be very wrong on a lot of these things. What I tend to do is I read things over and over and over again to see what I missed. So I think that this needs to be methodical and it needs to be legal, so that we don't run into these problems over and over and over again. That's it.
I second everything you just said, sir. Thank you.
I'm gonna mispronounce this.
Dunin
Dunabor.
is fine.
How do you pronounce it?
Dunabor.
Dunabor. Okay.
Hey, I'm following up on a few things that I saw in the chat. A few people have talked about waivers and running events. Do we have a good process moving forward for that, and or any advice for what we should do?
I know that.
I have a thought on that as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go.
What I would suggest, and again, this is just a suggestion of someone who's been involved with Dagger here 30 plus years and multiple other foam fighting activities and rattan fighting activities and live steel. Continue with the waiver that we've been using. Like I said, it is basically just to get the participants to acknowledge that there is in fact a risk to their involvement in said activities, and it creates a minor buffer zone so they can't go, well, I didn't know that that foam padded stick would hurt me. Is this your signature? Yes, it is. Then you were told. Um, a lot of cases go before the courts and end up being common sense decisions. Again, not an attorney, can't offer legal advice, but it's one thing. Continue with what we've been doing for 30 plus years. Have everybody that attends your events sign a waiver and use the standard one that we've always been using. There's no reason to change it. I know Alcris did bring up the fact that we might not want them to say DBGA, and that may be a valid point. But just a general waiver of liability doesn't need to reference anything other than the fact that the individuals are participating in a full contact sport on such and such a day. And that covers a lot of those different things.
That makes a lot of sense. I appreciate it. I think you answered a lot of questions in chat.
Okay. Norton Arad, our executive director, would like to say that they're popping off for lunch because they were on their lunch break to be at this meeting. If you have any questions for them, please feel free to message them. Everyone seems to be on top of the waiver situation. Jared said there are some states that don't allow you to waive your right to sue for damages, even if you're aware of the risks. So the waiver is less a waiver and more of a risk awareness. I mean, I'll actually comment on this. I've been doing this game for a long time, about 22 years, and the way the waiver was always explained to me is, it's the first line of defense. It's about keeping the honest man honest. Like, for example, my work truck has a tonneau cover on it. Anyone with a knife can go in and cut open my tonneau cover and take whatever they want out of it. It's there as the first layer of protection. That's how I've always viewed it. Because, I mean, this is America and people sue for whatever they want to sue for, whether or not they have grounds, and that becomes expensive.
Yeah.
Okay, I am at the end of my agenda. Everyone who is asked to be recognized has been recognized. If I missed anyone or anyone would like to speak, Jeffrey from Nova, go for it.
So I just wanted to sum up. I guess I heard two main things that need to be done, and I wanted to see if we have people on them. One was to figure out the tax issue and potentially get a CPA, maybe Hodor's mom or somebody else. That's issue one. The other issue I mainly heard about was getting DBGA out of forfeiture status, where we need to get a lawyer or pro bono. So that's task two, not necessarily in that order. Do we have people? Are there other tasks that need to be done after this meeting? And do we have people doing both of these tasks or others? And can we assign them now so we don't lose momentum here?
Cook, is that for you?
Yeah, I can try. If I understand the question right, do we have somebody? What are the next steps? And do we have somebody covering them? Is that right?
I believe that was the question, sir.
Okay. The answer is yes, we have next steps. And this meeting has cleared up like half of my list easy. Do we have someone covering them? Potentially. I've just had a couple volunteers pop up. But I've not vetted anybody and I really don't know anything yet. But do I have faith that we can have somebody help out? Yes. But to answer your question, the answer is yes. We have a plan to go forward, pretty much. We got to iron out a few details, but no, we don't have somebody yet to spearhead those initiatives. If anybody would like to volunteer for talking to lawyers or doing some research or anything like that, feel free to contribute. If you want a point of contact, contact me or any board member for that reason, and I will eventually get back to you.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Alchris, you can respond when you're done.
Yeah.
Zachary, can you take a hand? I actually have to deal with something with my child real quick.
Cook, thank you for all your efforts. To all the volunteers for your efforts.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're gonna get this done.
If it's okay with everyone, I'm going to pay to just extend the trademark to January 9th instead of July 9th. Then
I'm not sure it's necessary. How long do we have to put in for that extension?
whenever, like
Okay.
it's just $100, and it just makes sure that if this takes longer than expected, we don't have to worry about it.
And it's the same as if we tackle it by the 9th of what is it, July, or is it the same as tackling it July?
Yeah. It's just going to renew the trademark that's still currently held under the DBGA. So
I guess my only question is it advantageous for us to let it expire for any reason at all?
No. Well, like there's typically a 6-month buffer afterwards. So even if it did expire, if somebody filed for it, we having a better claim to it could deny their request for the trademark. Like that's still there, but that's just more actions we'd have to take later, and it would probably cost more than $100.
Okay, yeah. Well, it sounds like we should probably go ahead and extend it then. But if anybody has a problem with that, now's a real good time to talk.
Did we get to Zachariah's hand? Sorry, I had to go put my daughter to bed.
That's all right. I completely understand. I wanted to touch on the nonprofit thing you guys were talking about earlier. There is a way I'm currently figuring out how to retroactively apply nonprofit status if you have met the terms for it for the previous years. And all you have to do, I think, is prove that you have put on charitable stuff like free shows and stuff like that. For example, like DAG is kind of secondary for Shattered Sun Nerd Nights. We put on shows at fairs. And since we do them pro bono, it qualifies us for 501c3 status, and it was retroactive all the way to last year, we found out. That might help offset some of the tax things. I'm actually just now hearing about all this stuff. I have no idea how I've missed it.
And yeah, I think that's a good call. I've probably put in like 100 hours of research on nonprofits from scratch. I'm far from an expert. But yeah, if you want to continue that research and post it somewhere where we can all see it, we'll absolutely take that into the stratagem. Yes.
Right on. I just got us approved pretty quickly. I cut through all the bullshit and went straight to the government page instead. There's a ton of information on there, but it is just buried. I have a bookie that's helping me with the IRS donation thing, because every single one of us as individuals can donate something to the game. It'll not get any taxes applied to it whatsoever, and it could take a small percentage out of what they need to come up with. What's the total that they're in default with taxes or whatever?
The penalties included and the back taxes. So here's the story. Apparently, we paid those taxes, and I believe we did because I have the tax forms for 2019. So I believe that those taxes got paid, but we got lost in the shuffle somehow, some way. Maybe due to the paper taxes, maybe just due to COVID, or whatever the reason is, we got lost. So they're asking for the taxes that we originally owed, which is, if I remember right, is about $9,000. And then penalties since then have been accruing to about 3K right now. So to answer your question about $12,000, unless we get that waived, which is very possible apparently. So potentially no cost, potentially up to $12,000. I really don't think it's that big number. I really think it's the small number.
Yeah, I mean, I make that in a single fare. How many of you guys are Michigan based?
I'm Cleveland. I can drive.
So something I've been doing is trying to raise money for the other game we're doing on private property. It's 40 acres. We're trying to throw together a game I called Gate. It's based out of DAG, but kind of like more magical bullshit. But as a classified 501c, we could potentially raise the money and then donate it to solve the DAG problem. I don't know how I can help, but there's about 40 or 50 people in my group. We just were never on here.
Sure. Well, that we would certainly take your contributions for sure. But I kind of outlined, and I can get to that point next if nobody else has anything to add. But the finances and how I want to kind of set up a system to pay everything. So give everybody a moment to contribute, but I would like to move on to how we're going to pay for this and how we're going to take donations and things like that whenever we're ready to do that.
So Baradon Kane has a hand. From Valinor, the Valinor rep.
But yes, that's a very generous offer, Zachary. Generous offer. Thank you.
Yeah, this was the first LARP I got into. I don't want to see it, go anywhere. Everybody keeps saying it's dead, but I have 20 people to play with on a regular basis.
Yeah, me too. It's not dying. No way. A flesh wound, merely.
Am I allowed to speak now that I have said hand in chat there?
I was gonna go to Bregadon next because he was next in line.
You want it?
But if he's okay with it,
Okay. I was just adding because he asked who was Michigan based, and I just moved up here with my family. I've been part of Daga here for almost 15 years or so, maybe more. So if there's anything LARP wise going on in Michigan, please contact me. I'd probably like to get involved and be a part of whatever ideas you have going on up here. Because I was kind of told that Michigan's kind of a LARP dead zone.
Would you? So I'm going to go off minutes of this meeting to kind of get notes later. Would you just say your name out loud and tell me that again?
Yeah, my name's Giblet. That's my in-game name. But yeah, he was just saying Zachary there was saying who was Michigan based. So I just moved up here. I'm currently part of Justigeist. That'd be the Dagahir unit or chapter that I'm part of.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's great. I'll go back through this meeting, the recording of it, and I will address everything I can as it comes up, for sure.
Right.
I got
Yes.
you, Gibbs.
Yeah, sorry for the caps lock there. I was playing my game at the same time and I accidentally hit the cap lock. Didn't mean to yell in there. Yeah, my bad. But yes, Zachary, if you wish to contact me and give me any information, just feel free. Send me a Discord chat or a friend request. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right,
No problem. Already added. I don't know why people keep saying Michigan is dead. There's hundreds of LARPers, but they all just aren't working together.
Right. That's kind of what I've noticed because there was talks about starting at least a practice in my local area is what I was gonna do, but that we're getting off topic. So, all right. Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, I just realized you're muted. Bregador Kane, please. You have a hand.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of jump off of something Alacris said earlier and I'm going to try to say this in a way that doesn't sound like I'm calling anyone out. But there's about 80 people in this chat, in this group right now. And for the last year, most of the meetings that we've had have had like, I don't know, 10, 12. All of these people who have clearly have a lot of passion for the game, including me. I don't want to see you guys disappear into the ether again now that things are getting a little bit more stabilized. it shouldn't take the invoking of the horrible name of Dominus for people to actually do things in regards to Dagger here. Please stick around if you want this thing to work out. That is all.
I'm gonna go ahead and piggyback on that because I've been chairing the meetings for the last, I don't know, about a year now, and this is the most engagement we've seen in a long time. I mean, it's very clear that we have a lot of individuals who are very passionate about the game, and they want to see it succeed. I would like to say that people are passionate about the game and not passionate about seeing Dominus banned. I mean, I get that some people are, but you know, if you're passionate about Dominus being banned from the game, then you show it. Like, there has to be some passion for the game. Like, there's a reason for it. It's not just I don't want him to have a stick. Like, if you have a passion for Dagger here, show up and be a part of the process. Help us network. Help us grow the game. The more engagement we get, the easier it is. And if you want a say in what the game does, all you have to do is show up. And I mean, it's a very open forum. So that's all I have to say on that.
We're fun to talk to if you show up.
Mitko of Oblivion has a hand. Or, sorry, I skipped one. Firefox has a hand. From Sky
I do believe there was Jared was ahead of me first.
Was he? Oh, yep, I missed that one. Sorry, Jared, go ahead. That's why I shouldn't speak.
This is Jared. I would like to just take a quick moment to address that. Some of this is getting addressed, I believe, in the main chat as well. But as someone who has been a long time member of DAG, but at this point and for a while has not had a local chapter or the means to start a chapter, regardless of reality, the perception of the organization is that there's no clear way for me to participate and volunteer and assist at a quote unquote corporate level because I don't have the backing of a local. So I would say, as much as there's probably a lot of us that want to help and are passionate and be willing to help, there also has to be a route for us to be able to help. That's all I have to say.
So, Jared, I can respond to that one as the chair of this one. Thankfully, thanks to you all, I am the chair of this organization right now. But I would say that Cirile is a fantastic example. Cirile is not a member of an active Dagger Here chapter, and she is on our BOD. Just because you're alone in your area does not mean that your time is not valuable to us, and it does not mean that you cannot step up and help us. We had 3 positions that no one ran for this year on our BOD, and we had to plug them with nominations from the BOD. So don't feel like just because you're alone out there, you don't have that you can't engage with the thing, or engage with the CC, engage with us. I've always welcomed any member of Dagger here to come and join our meetings. I do ask everyone to remain muted for that reason, which is one of the reasons why we use the hand system, which I ripped off from Zachrid because he's awesome. So, don't feel like just because you don't have local support that you can't engage with us on a national level. It's all about networking. It's all about finding more people to do nerd swing sticks with. And, hopefully you do find some guys out there who are playing some game, and maybe you cross game, maybe you don't. But it's about enjoyment, and that's what we're here for. We're all here to have a good time. This is all volunteer work, So I don't feel like you have to be in a chapter to be heard, and don't feel like you have to be in a chapter to contribute to the national organization.
Is it okay if I reply to that?
Absolutely.
All right. So I would like to thank again for that clarification. That is some clarification that I will volunteer. I was aware of. I was originally part of the chapter council that was trying to form this version of it before my local chapter in Texas fell apart. That being said, I think that the reality is unfortunately probably less important than the perception. And the perception is that unless you've got skin in the game with the local chapter, there's not a clear that. Even the reply that Cyril lay off in the general chat, which I appreciate, is that as a person without a clear chapter, I would need like an addendum to the bylaws to be able to like serve in any real capacity, like volunteering, getting out things, all things I'm very well aware of. But and this may be beyond the scope of this, but as we continue to grow as an organization, hopefully resurrect, that is something that I feel needs to be addressed, because as much as this is a corporation, it has a lot of crossover with a community, and sometimes in focusing on one, we lose sight of the other.
No, and I understand that, and I get where you're feeling, and maybe we need to do a better job of putting it out there that, um, you know, because I would have to check the bylaws. I don't think there's anything in the bylaws that prevents you from holding, if you're not a member of a chapter. But I mean, even if it says you have to be a chapter, how do we define that? It's really not defined anywhere. Like a member of Dagger here, by our bylaws currently, is not really defined. It's very nebulous. It's not like AmpGuard where it says, you have to go to 6 events and pay dues. Right?
Can I step in for a second?
Absolutely.
So I think the problem started when the nonprofit originally had to define what a member was. So to us, we would like members to be like just people that participate. But the nonprofit had, for whatever reason, they felt like they needed to define members in a way that created a like representative democracy instead of just a democracy. So they were trying to not dilute their idea or their core principle while they expanded rapidly through their fast growth stage across the United States. So like it was a good model for growth, but it's not a good model for sustaining a viable product. We need to do better. And we acknowledge that.
Are you good, Jared? I was gonna move to the next hand.
Nope, all good.
Okay. Faye Firefox from Skyreach.
Yes. Hi. It's been a bit since this got brought up here, but I know people mentioned attendance to the meetings. I would like to state, I can't speak for other people here, but I know for at least me personally, Sunday evenings are pretty much, up until recently, have never been open for me to actually attend meetings. And with my other representative having kind of just gone ghost, it's really up to me. So I've been watching the recordings but haven't been able to attend, and I'm not sure if that might be the situation for other chapter reps as well.
I mean, that's a valid point. I mean, we do.
Thank you for McDonald's, baby. Mobile app. No, thank you.
Do you have a hot mic?
Yes, I'm good. 4 plain McDoubles. A large fry and a large Coke, and that'll be it.
Can I get a chocolate shake with that as well?
Can I get a large fry?
All right. Well, he doesn't know. It's okay. He's driving. We'll forgive him that.
Yeah.
Sorry, that totally torpedoed what I was gonna say. Faye Firefox.
Yep.
That is a mouthful for me.
You could just call me Faye.
My dyslexia just went all over that. So we.
You said plain with a large what? With a large fry and a large Coke.
We do traditionally host our meetings on Sunday. It's unfortunate that not everyone can make Sundays. We do
That's
also ask for seed. I always put seed dates forward. Hosting a meeting on off of a Sunday could be doable. I just think Sunday is one of the days that works for most people, which is why we've always done it that way.
Yeah. I was just, like I said, I'm not complaining about it because I understand that it's probably just a meeting, and my Sundays have since opened up a bit more, but it's just a point on why some people might not be here, and it might be something we at least want to open a conversation about. and see where people are at with it, not necessarily pushing for a change here.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's something we can discuss because we want as much engagement as possible. So,
All right.
so who's next?
Anyway, with that, I'll take my leave.
I have Miko from Oblivion.
Yeah. So I just wanted to touch on kind of what everybody else has been talking about here just recently. First off, I want to mention that I stepped away from attending meetings just because of life getting busy. But we've been around. Oblivion's been around the game for 20 years almost. So we're in and out here and there. COVID had a big impact on us all. But I personally came back because of a lot of hard work put in by Alacris, and I really want to thank him for that because Dagger here does mean a lot to all of us. We wouldn't be here otherwise. And he has been on an absolute campaign across the country to see that more participation is happening, and I just want to thank him for that and reeling me as one of them back in. So, but I also wanted to mention that there's a lot of representation that is missing from these and have been since a couple of years ago when I jumped back in and was trying to keep up with the chapter council. But I am in a unique position right now to interact with these groups all over the country. We're actually going in August to a Dagger Here battle in Washington State. There's groups in Montana, Kansas, all these places that have these silent voices that really just don't want to participate in the political side of Dagger Here, or just are in the dark. One of the groups that I spoke to, I know this seems minuscule, but if I was interacting with a member of their group, and I mentioned the terminology Wallenball, which probably all of us recognize, but they had no clue and had never heard that term before, and it was because they were so excluded from Dagger here as a whole. And a lot of people felt excluded because of the way that rules were written and things like that from what Ragnarok used to be, where members would go and vote on rules at Ragnarok, and it being where it was, a lot of the people out on the West Coast felt extremely excluded from all the proceedings in Dagger here, and had since kind of just started operating on their own. And it is really, I think, important that we make a decision if we're going to. I know that Ragnarok is off the table. It sounds like. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like that to me. And I think we need to, if we're going to flagship something again for the profit of our group as a whole, we should try to do something a little bit more centralized to maybe bring these people from the West Coast into the know and into where they feel like they can participate more on a national level as opposed to just their local level. But that's about all. That's all I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
And who was speaking right there?
That was
Miko
of Oblivion.
Okay, thank you.
They're an excellent chapter. They do some of they come up with some of the most creative fighting videos and creative gear I've ever seen. So, okay.
Appreciate that.
I mean, your guys' stuff is awesome, and your videos are on point. Love it.
I know I'm out of order with hands, but I would like to address that.
Oh, okay. I'll let you address it, and then I have Tamora, and that's what I was doing.
Yeah, Miku. We really want to try to change the meetings that we have to less political stuff and more active things going on in the community type conversations. I know you haven't been to meetings or whatever, but you haven't been missing out much. I'll tell you the truth. As far as like constructive things that we've been trying to improve the game with, that has been on hold for a while, and we're trying to. We have a very good board right now, and we're trying to push some things, to the CC that are going to be, big improvements, and that we would really like everybody's input on these things. And I think that they're going to be appealing for you to participate in more than, political stuff. So really, I would really like to see our change tone, or see us change tone in our meetings to like what activities are going on, what can we do to make things easier for everybody, and get together communally a little more. And I know I'm not alone on that idea. So we really would like to make this more appealing to you, just so you know, in the future.
All right, Timor and I have a hand.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had a helicopter landing at the hospital. I couldn't hear a damn thing.
Goodness.
Addressing the outreach issue of it, I also want to state that from the very beginning, as the first executive director and the first board, that was foremost on our mind, and a lot of things was changing the optics of how people perceived the organization, and a lot of inroads were made right off the bat. Sil did a wonderful job as the director of PR, trying to reach out in a lot of different ways. One of the biggest problems we've always had is that misconception that outsiders are not welcome. Because for the longest time that was the case, and that became kind of rank and file for anybody that raised their voice to try and help were just beaten down by a bunch of the naysayers, particularly the internet trolls. So we immediately tried to start counteracting that. Unfortunately, every time somebody says something positive, you get, I'm going to go as high as 50 or 60 people online talking shit about DAG. Why are you still in DAG? Well, we all know that this is, a big dumpster fire. It's a shit show. It's unsafe, blah, blah, blah. They don't care. So, and their voice is heard more often than ours. So community outreach goes a long way, not just from the board of directors and the CC, but also from people. And it has been a hard fight because most nerds, like you say, they just want to go out and swing sticks. So they find the easiest game that they can do, and they don't want to get involved in the politics. Our big advantage when we did everything through RWC was it was at Ragnarok, it was in person. We don't have that right now, and we moved to an online platform. It made it a little bit easier for everybody to be heard. And some of the changes that we made were the original language of the bylaws did in fact state that you had to be an active member of Dagger here to hold a position on the board. And one of the first things that I noticed was that was damn near impossible to enforce. We don't have a definition of membership. So looking at the most recent bylaws that were popped up there, it looks like, and I remember that we had a meeting with the chapter council to kind of get rid of that, because Cyril A did bring up that point when they were the chapter liaison, that they wanted to hold the position, but couldn't because they were without a chapter. So we've done that, but we do need to reach out more, and that is why it is so key that the current position of Director of Public Relations needs to be filled by somebody that has the energy to do that, somebody that knows how to do outreach. And we talked about a lot of different things, but not to make excuses, but we had a lot of stuff on our plates that were much more important than combating 60 people that were talking shit about us. So we need to continue to move forward, and seeing that is super, super important. So steps have been made, and we need to continue to make more. And I think that a lot of this is really just spreading the word again. Host a Dagger Here event, host a practice, even if you're only 5-10 people in a park somewhere out in Nowheresville, North Dakota. Spread the word. That's how we did all of these things. Yeah, I totally killed Ragnarok. Thanks. Sorry, it's all me. Blame me for that one. But yeah, getting back to that, back in the day, because I'm an old fart. We used to get our flyers at the local game stores or at the library. We didn't have the internet, so we need to utilize the things that we have, but we need the volunteers. So we try and make it as easy as possible for anybody who volunteers to get tapped to do it, and hopefully not get burnt out. That's all I got to say about that.
Felger, is your comment on topic, or because I've got Zach really wants to comment on this?
Which topic?
The inclusion topic.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna go Felger, and then we'll go to Zach. I'm not skipping you, Zach. I just see you've got two hands up, but I want you to know you're not getting skipped. All right, so Felger, go ahead, and then we'll go to Zach.
So beyond the obligatory thanks, Alacris, for when he knew he was going to come here and answer 1,000 questions, his response was to go to Facebook and announce that come ask me 1,000 questions. So I just want to give him credit for that. But on the point of reaching out, I would say that if you look at your Discord screen right now, on the right side, the board of directors is listed. And now we have conveniently posted what their duties are. So if you read through our duties and you think you can help out, please reach out to anyone on the board of directors, even if you're in the middle of nowhere. I have projects coming up that I have to accomplish in the next 2 years, and I would definitely like help trying to accomplish these projects. So, and I don't care if you're in a chapter or not. And even if you do think you're in the middle of nowhere, we can kind of help you find people if you're looking for people. So now that that's cleared up, and people who would normally not come to this meeting because of the drama that got spilled over, came to the meeting to find out what's going on. We're now asking you're showing interest. We're asking you directly for help. Read my list of duties, and if you can help me at all, like I definitely want to have that conversation.
Zach, Nerd Knights of Michigan.
Zach is typing right now. Give a second.
Okay.
I forgot to unmute myself. I'm not used to having push to talk on.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, also I had to change my name because we haven't been Shattered Sun for like 10 years. but as for the going back to the whole inclusion thing,
you got them fixed? All right.
Hey, let's go ahead and mute him for a second. Go ahead. I muted him.
Right on. Life happens. But like my first introduction to this game was literally making fun of people for playing it, and then someone being like, "Dude, you know you want to try this? Don't be a pussy." Da, da, da. And I'm like, you know what? He's right. I went over there. I tried the game. Within 30 minutes, I'm asking how to build these goofy ass popsicle stick swords. So, I guess what I'm getting at is like mockery and exclusion is probably one of the best ways to spread something. Because from my experience dealing with Dagger Here's forums back in the day, the Facebook group, any online thing, they try so hard to be inclusive that they exclude hundreds of people. Like, I can't tell you how many times I got, another white guy, like, and stupid shit like that, when like our hobby is probably 80% Caucasian people. I haven't seen that kind of thing as much anymore, which is pretty great. We all kind of broke away from all of the social media nonsense related to the game, and we actually quit mentioning Dagger here because of all the toxicity that you guys were just talking about. But like, outreach isn't difficult. Like you said, just go to a park and host a thing. When you have looky loos over there, walk up to them with a sword and hand them out. Our first event had 52 people at it. Our third one had 475. I was drastically unprepared. I had 4 heralds. I lost like 2 friendships over the stress of that event. But it's not hard to bring in more people. It's getting them to stay. I think some of the bigger issues we run into is our weapons are kind of like really restrictive. Still not allowing full latex stuff, in my opinion, is just stupid. There's no conceivable way a wood core shield is less dangerous than a full latex sword. It's just not logical. If you guys could take steps to change that, you'd probably see a drastic increase in your player bases. Because I have removed that barrier for most of my games, and I have not run into any issues. There's also a way wider variety of equipment. Like I can get 140 combat safe swords for a few $100s, as opposed to I'd have to drop thousands to get those dag ones like Gorg or Tiny Warpath. Shout out for Dan, I guess.
So, if you don't mind me being incredibly rude, I've thought a lot about this, and it would be amazing if Daggerhair maintained 2 rule sets, like maybe a tournament rule set and a field rule set, or however you want to define those 2 variables, and one of them could include different ideas, but maybe the field is designed to be as safe as possible. So we use Daggerhair weapons.
On that, I have a comment, but first I'm going to go to Theoden. He has a hand up on community outreach.
Test. There we go. Hey guys, name's Theoden. Played the game since it started in like 2010. God, I feel old. Yeah, my thing I wanted to add for community outreach before we deviate from it on the tournament question was, this isn't to first I want to this isn't to diminish the need for people doing public relations and doing positive public relation efforts. I think that's really important. But at least from my perception of the game, like, and how it's been seen online and whatnot, it's going to be like you're going to need that, but you're also going to need to deliver positive action, right? Like, you're sure you're going to get the negative the entire time. People are going to like shut you down and whatnot, but the only way you can get around that is just keep trudging through it and keep trying to show like, hey, we're having fun, we're doing a great game, we're making positive changes. We're making our rules more like maybe more consistent or streamlined if like there's any wording differences. We're setting standards for how like we herald or marshal or whatever. We're hosting events predominantly that are pulling a lot of people and having a great time and aren't really boring. But I know this is saying the obvious here, but it's just like I know at some point there was a point where I kind of sensed the mood was really like down and depressed, but it's just like the overall thing is it's only going to get better if you'll keep doing it. And I think hopefully that kind of thing helps you like move forward with this. But I'll see about trying to get like since y'all are open to like ideas and stuff and suggestions, I'll try to see if I can like type up some stuff for y'all later and see if it helps on proposals.
Here.
So, I recently, in the last 5 years, moved out to the Winchester area, and it's kind of a little bit of a dead spot for LARPs, at least it used to be. But a bunch of us got together. Well, I'm not going to take credit for it. Actually, the person who we can give credit to is Dylan. He's a member of our unit now. He wasn't when he did this. He said, this is a dead spot for LARP. I don't like this, so he contacted the local college campus and rented out the soccer field with the lights and hosted an event called Friday Night Fights. And there was no set rule set. We would show up, and if we had a lot of DAG fighters, the DAG fighters could do DAG fighting. The AMP guard fighters did AMP guard fighting. The LARPers did LARP fighting, and we played to the lowest denominator because we just wanted to promote LARPing as a whole in the Winchester area. And so that was very successful. It got a lot of people out. I think our biggest practice is like 18 people. And that what's actually got me back into DAG here, because at the time, before I started going out to this event, I was like, there's nothing around me. The closest DAG is 2 hours away. I don't have it in me. And then this happened, and I love it. And so that has revitalized LARPing in my area. And now I get to fight every week, and it's fantastic. So, you know, even though we are here to discuss Dagger here, I don't think it's a bad thing to discuss how we are all ambassadors to the realm of LARPing. And I mean, I love swing and stick. That's why I do this. I don't love the political side. I hate it. I just do it because politics doesn't ignore you just because you ignore politics. But I'm all about just LARP in general. So that's all I have to say on that. Looking for the next hand. I think Faye Firefox has a hand.
I did. It's being handled in the chat. No worries about it.
Okay. Just scrolling down. All right, I think we're all caught up. I think we're handling a lot of this in text. I do agree with Theta that having different rules and equipments for tournaments is rough. Tournament rules should just be, set the rules and that's what the rules are. So I have several people typing, so I'm gonna give it a minute, let everyone get it out, and then Bring It On had a hand. I'm sorry, I just saw it, just popped up. Thank you. Bring It On.
No worries. I just wanted to lend my experience in reaction to some of the things people are saying about weapons. I have been a weapons check for many years at this point, and I have personally tried latex weapons in a testing environment. We should not do that in our game. I'll take a pretty harsh stance on that one. I've done a regular like check with like a two-handed, like a red version, but with a latex weapon, and it is it's not good, and that's nothing to say of thrusting and durability and things of that nature. I just wanted to throw that out there. Dagger here is a full contact, fast-paced game. Latex weapons would not function in this environment. That is all.
So when I say latex, I don't know if we're talking about the same thing. Are you guys assuming I'm talking about plastidip coated dag stuff?
No, I'm talking about stuff like Calamasil and things of that nature.
Calamasil is hot garbage. I don't allow it on my field. They are way too hard.
So you're essentially you're just
they're-
swapping out the cover for plastic. Is what you're saying.
Submit a pile, send something to somebody.
Yeah, so show me what you're talking about, because what I have in my head right now is
we don't have to
incredibly
argue about it
dangerous.
online. Let's just show us what you mean.
Yeah.
I thought that might be some crossover. Do you guys know who Epic
Yeah.
Armory is?
I know of Epic Armory.
It doesn't have to be a whole conversation. Like, if you have something you want to show us, send it to us. So take a look at it. And we'll have a conversation about it. We all like
Put
the
it
same
in the
shit.
general chat.
We're
I'll
gonna
look
have a
at
good
it,
time.
and yeah, I'll put it in the general chat or in the media room, and I'll look at it, and I'll I'm not the end all be all, but I do have a ton of experience in this area, and I can kind of weigh in.
I will show you guys the one we've been using.
Yeah, I was going to talk about the current thing, but it seems like people were pushing to try to get back on topic.
Okay, yeah.
I want to see if you want to do that before I.
Jeffrey, no, we hit the end of the agenda about a half an hour ago, and then we opened up to talk about engagement and stuff like that.
Okay. I guess in relation, I'll try to move us back on engagement to appease some people, but on the relation of weapons, for the latex weapons, which I mean, even though you say Calamasil is like hot garbage, which I've never used, I'll take your testimony for it. But the Epic Armory is also like in the category of a latex-based weapon. It could be better than Calamasil as far as utilization, but the primary issue that we have with most latex-based weapons is the minimal amount of foam between the core itself and the person, which is why they tend to be more harmful to the individual when struck. They look pretty. They look really nice. But I've always had issues when attempting to confront people with latex weapons and talking to them about about the utilization for that tool in our game. It's not safe enough, which is it's just my experience. But I mean, just for reference, I've done weapons checks.
What events are you going to soon? Like what? Just bring some to it.
Let's see. I'm gonna try to go to Armageddon again this year, if you're going.
You going to any DAG events?
Bro, I'm in Texas.
Yeah, Pangea's DAG. Yeah.
I see in January.
Yeah.
I usually go to that one, but if you're like, most people don't know Pangea exists.
Oh, I drive from Ohio for it. It's a great event. Like, yeah,
really
it'd be great to get you guys on it. Yeah,
Hey, can I
probably.
interrupt?
Shit,
interrupt for a
yeah,
second?
I did see some. Did you bring some of that stuff to Pangea? I think I remember
No,
seeing some.
someone's asked. Yeah, we'll
Yeah, sorry.
keep it in chat. Message me.
Hey,
Yeah,
we're losing
yeah.
people. Can we talk about one more thing before we get people off the chat here?
Yes, go for it, Cook. You have the floor.
And I don't want to get out of turn. Jared, did you want to go first?
No, I think you had it first. I'll go next because mine may have already been addressed and I just missed it.
Okay, cool. Well, I thank you all for showing up, and I know some of you have to hop off. I didn't expect this meeting to go very long, but I just wanted to touch on the last things that I had on my mind as far as taking care of our next steps. I'm going to go back through this video or this recording and see what we really think and try to publicly propose good next steps. Yeah. But as far as taking care of that, while I have you all here, we need to talk about a couple of things. The donations. I'm shortly about to set up a nonprofit that can accept donations freely, tax free, and all that. If I do this too early, I will incur income tax and things like that. So I'm not going to do that. To facilitate the donations, I kind of outlined it on my post above. If you want to scroll up that far, but we don't have our needs fully fleshed out, so I can't tell you what I need more than just the next step at the moment. The next step for the nonprofit has been paid for already, and that was graciously donated by our executive director, Norin. Thank you. But I ask that everybody on this call consider giving us a donation to the organization to fulfill our needs ahead of time. And how I want this to go down is I'm going to set up a bank account for the corporation one way or the other once we decide on the direction we want to go to take these donations. But as I would like them to pour in now and have you pledge a donation. So I'm going to ask you to pledge a dollar amount to our future pending needs for the moment. And as needs arise, I will reach out to you and ask you to donate your pledge on an individual basis. So you will DM me or make it very public and make it easy for me to see that you want to donate a certain dollar amount, and I will eventually get to you when we have a need for it. I've already had a few people that are in the queue. I'm going to start with them. Some of us would like to give, just as a little side thing, some of us would like to give you any initial donors to this restructuring, revivification of Dagger here, a physical gift, like a nice little token of our appreciation. So that's the first thing. So I hope that's pretty clear. If you want to donate to the cause, I don't have anything specific to point that money at, but please let me know how much you would like to donate, and I will get to you in order. And as the need arises, I'll give you a receipt. I'll do whatever you want. Just try to follow this system so it doesn't get lost in the sauce. Okay. Any questions about that, real quick?
I have a hand from Faye Firefox from Skyreach.
Yes, I guess I just had the question when it comes to those donations, besides obviously funding the nonprofit, what else would they be going to? Like, I guess, it was my understanding correct that you would be collecting money as needed, or would it be collected when people want to donate and then put into like a account waiting for whatever it's needed for? And if that's the case, would it be voted on by the CC, or what would be the process for that?
We're going to take things as needed for the things that the CC has voted on so far. That would be the nonprofit organization. That's only about $500. But now we're talking about legal bills and things like that. That's a need that we don't know yet, and we need to like figure out. So to answer your question, I'm taking like no personal gifts past what gets me a bank account. Everything past that is going to be a nonprofit organization donation from you. I don't have that bank account yet. So as the need arises, I will just put everything into that bank account. And I can't make expenditures without CC approval. So don't worry about anything not being transparent. I will definitely let you know what I'm spending money on. And I will even let you know who donated that money to pay for that thing, just for appreciation. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Cook.
Eric has a hand.
There is an existing bank account that can be used. Also, there's about $7,000 in the Ragnarok bank account. If Ragnarok is dissolved, we could all agree that that money be reverted to DBGA Inc. or whatever currently suffices or fills the place of DBGA Inc. But in the meantime, there are active bank accounts that can be used.
Okay, that'd be great.
How just check with a lawyer. I don't know.
Tamorin has a hand.
Specifically in reference to the
Like-
Ragnarok bank account. I need to talk to Norin, and I'll be in touch with them as soon as they get back to me on this. But Ericos is in fact correct. There are accounts in place. How useful they are, I'm not exactly sure. The money from Ragnarok does need to be distributed back to the DBGA. It hasn't happened yet because the final winding down of the Ragnarok LLC is not yet complete, and that needs to be finished first. But that really should not take that long.
Okay. I will use any money that I get from good sources to pay for our needs, for sure. Any other questions about the donations deal? I would like to move on to one last thing before I lose you all.
Now I got no one typing, so... Oh, my Faye Fox is typing. Hold on a second. And now Zach is typing. Okay. I have two people typing. If the RAG IC is dissolved, would that be no more RAG? That would be my understanding unless DBGA decides to host an event, Faye. Firefox.
We would like to have something like Ragnarok, even if we don't call it Ragnarok. That would be like our flagship event. That's one business model that we're toying with. It's not on the books yet, so we don't know.
If you guys want to help with that, that would be amazing. Like if somebody had mentioned earlier, Central. If somebody that has somewhere near good highway access that could draw the entire country that wants to propose a location, I bet we could find support here to man something amazing.
Oh man, this name is super hard to read. The Elder Grove is what I'm picking up. Lathian? Sorry, that blue color is hard for me to read.
Luthien from
Hey,
Elder
Luthien.
Grove.
Yeah, so I've been on the premise that we're going to start anew with a new corporation. That would include a whole new bank account to put things into. If we revive Dagger here, if that's our choice, the DBGA Dagger here, the old corporation, and give it a new nonprofit status, we will have a bank account that you can pour everything into. Hopefully that answers the question.
If I might suggest, when we resurrect the DBGA, if we can, use it as a holding company. Like it doesn't need to have people cycling every year. Like it could be a long-term asset holding company that's a nonprofit. Like what I was trying to push, but in a nonprofit form.
Sure, we could definitely use that company once we restore it as a holding company.
And
That'd be a good
then
idea.
you use yours to grow events.
Perfect.
That's
That way, if you
exactly
get
what I did
sued,
with
they
the
don't.
Knights.
Yeah, then if you get sued, they don't take the IP, and then we can just make another one.
Right. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Um,
And I don't
yeah.
see another hand, so Crooks, what was the final thing you had for us?
Speaking of
Cool,
that,
cool.
real quick, because that does piggyback. Can I use my hand real quick, or do I need to wait?
Go for it, Jared.
Yes.
Okay. This is Jared. And again, this may have been addressed earlier in the meeting. I just did not hear it. One of the concerns that had been raised during a lot of the text discussions was outside actors attempting to grab the IP. Obviously, we have heard some Drakenfest and others, but as well as Rome and people associated with Rome. Is there any confirmation of that? Are there steps that need to be taken to minimize that threat?
If the DBGA is back on the board,
is
we
that
are
even on the
good.
table at this point?
If the DBGA is resurrectable, as Timur suggested, we have it. We have the trademark and the prior use.
And
We just
after
need to
that,
do it
it's just
before we would lose it, I guess.
All right.
There is like a timeout period.
Zach has a hand.
So this one will be quick. So there is an option that I recently found out about that you guys have never used. You can contact abandoned or properties that have been for sale for a considerable amount of time that are not selling, and just rent them from the realtor. Super fucking cheap.
You mean as a location?
Yeah, like we rented a golf course that hadn't had anything happen on it for an obnoxious event. You could do the same thing. There's no reason to have the big event at the same place every time. Just make the ramparts modular.
That's interesting. I like that.
I'm just a proposal.
Sure, and that's very interesting play. The only thing that will conflict is like the 501c3 organization can't hold any facilities. We don't own anything.
I think what he's talking about is
Correct.
renting a
You
golf
don't want it.
course
You
from
let them
them.
donate the use, and that counts.
Okay.
They get a tax write-off. You get free land to use, and their insurance covers our footprints. I've been doing basically DAG by myself for a couple of decades now.
Yeah. Dude, I really want your input all over the board.
All right, let's.
Please don't lose track with us. I want your input.
Hand to Tamorin.
Talk about something else for a minute. I got another helicopter.
No. Cook, what was your next line item?
I got a quick one, and it's kind of the biggest thing on my mind, and it has been for like a while. Is that we owe Sil big time. We need to pay him right away. Like he's owed $480, and this is a huge shame on our community. Now, my question is, should I have a donation drive to crowdsource this? If that's going to be the case, it's going to take a while. I'm pretty busy. Or will a generous person or some benevolent group like to make a contribution to pay for Sil, who has paid for our website to be up for quite a while. That bill is way up, and we need to pay him back right away. We can't lose Sil over anything like this. Anybody out there want to fork over $480 to Sil right away, or do I need to crowdsource this?
Get out the billy clubs. Yeah, I mean that's a fantastic point. We really should be paid.
Let's just throw a big event, and the proceeds can go to something like that. Some of it.
Well, my preference is to get this taken care of right away.
Yeah.
I messaged you. Dominion can contribute some of that to help Sil. I haven't got a confirmation on how much we can contribute, but I can talk to you offline to get that sorted out.
I mean,
sure.
Well, a good point.
So we don't hold up the meeting.
App him, so.
If we get that $7,000 from the RAG LLC grant account, first thing I would do with that is pay Sil. But if somebody wants to take care of that first, just because you're nice, we can do that, or we can crowdsource it, which is kind of sounding like the best second option. Okay. So plan A is to use the money we already have to pay Sil. Plan B is to crowdsource
I
the
think
money.
Zachary is saying he's covered it.
Oh, somebody covered it.
I think I'm interpreting that correct.
Okay, if I get confirmation from Syl, then I will publicly announce that we don't need that money.
That
Okay.
Zachary is an awesome individual.
Yeah, he came from my group. We spawned that man. We're so proud of him.
Really?
All right, I'm
Yes.
back and ready.
All right. For
All
your
right, other than the fact, hey, well, look at that. There we go.
Yep.
Congratulations, Silly. You got money.
Zachary's a gun.
I'm actually trying to remember what the hell my hand went up for, and it was concerning the rumors. I know that this is like 10 minutes ago in the conversation, so it's not really on anybody's mind. Two of them were quickly proven to be very, very unfounded. The owner of Fable and the owners of Drachenfest have no desire whatsoever to go after the IP. I can't speak in relation to anything else. I just know that those two were specifically confirmed. This comes down again to a lot of the rumor mill that happens. You know, we got to be real careful with what is posted in official forums as a fact, or even, you know, what somebody heard. If it's not coming from the right parties, that's how a lot of these frustrations get started, because people talk out of their asses all the time, and it's truly problematic. So curbing things like that is also something that this organization has been working pretty hard for the last several years to do, and making sure. Again, it goes back to that whole PR director, because that would be their job, you know, stem the tide of the bullshit stuff coming out.
You're here.
Other than that, I'm done unless anybody else needs me for anything else.
I think we're done, unless I've Moth is typing, and then if anyone has anything, it is getting late, that they want to discuss, we could also start moving to adjourn. But I have several people typing, so I have to give them their moment. Moth says +1 to Timmy. Focus on the game and not fear mongering other games. I encourage. I mean, Dagger Hair is great. I love Dagger Hair. It's my sport. I love it. But I cross game. I encourage everyone to cross game. That's how you meet people, and you know, introduce them to Dag and do it that way. You know, we're all here to do Wacky Bats. Wacky Bats is what we're here for. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Timorn, for using your network. I know you and Blackhawk are close to them, and I should have thought to reach out to you and ask that. You're a much more reliable source. I appreciate you clearing that up.
Then Ericus points out that libel is a form of defamation, specifically false statements published under permanent form, writing, or pictures that damages a person's reputation. It is civil wrong, not a crime, and the person defamed can sue for damages. So be careful what you say online, people. I have one person typing, and if they don't have a hand, I'm going to move to close. I guess.
So just before we close, if I may, real quick, I'm going to go through all this. I'm going to personally make sure that your public voices have been heard, and we're going to try to suss out the best path forward and make a public presentation on what we want to do, a regular proposal to the CC. Anybody wants to contribute to that, please do.
If you need help with that, let me know.
I think I can come through this and come up with a gist of what we thought was right, and go from there.
Okay. Donna would say thank you to the volunteers. Totally agree. We need many, many thanks to them. All right. No one is typing. Everyone appears to be satisfied. I'm going to move to close. Remember, if you do want something to discuss, all you have to do is put it in the motions chat and get a rep to second it. If no one does, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll see about adding it to our next agenda. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. I'm going to end the recording now.